Hi, my name is Msami, and I am in my second year of the visual arts program at U of E. Yeah. I was scrolling on the U of E website, and I found myself at the bottom, and I saw that they were advertising for artists to be part of this project, and I thought this would be a great opportunity, not only for me, but for the Black community as well. You know, as a school creates something for us. You know, we're a small demographic, so having this work and also being part of this work means a lot. I would describe my work as a driving force for unity. I want Black people to see the work and to feel connected to it. I want them to see the painting and be, I want them to see it and feel like they are recognized, especially here where we're not a lot and there's not a lot of representation. So for a Black person to see their flag there, see their home there, their culture, it would, force us to, not exactly force us, but, drive us to come together, to feel at home in a place where we're not really wanted, where we're discriminated against. And so I'm hoping that, it speaks volumes of unity and peace and love. Yes. I remember seeing the advert on the UV website, and I instantly knew what I was gonna do. We were in our first Zoom meeting, and we were talking about the logistics of how we're gonna go about this project and how things changed from a mural to individual paintings. And in that moment, it hit me, and I had to write it down, the idea, then the image that popped into my head. And I just wanted it to look fierce. I wanted it to be intense. And that's what inspired me to create this painting with no faces, with no distinct identity. I wanted just the flags, because the flags represent all of us. It represents our heritage, our culture, our history. And that was very important. And I wanted to bring all of that. I didn't want to have a specific face, because we can't all relate to that specific face. We can relate to our countries, we can relate to our cultures, our traditions. And I think having those flags there is what would represent that. And it would be easier for all of us to relate to that. And when I was trying to figure out how I would paint it, I was stuck. And then I opened Instagram, and lo and behold, there was an example right there in front of me. It was posted by the Support Black Art page on Instagram. And it was this photograph of a Black man with the American flag over his head. And I was like, that is it. That is where I'm gonna get how I'm gonna go about the painting, how I want it to look. And so I took that and I just processed it. And I had my friends pose for me, and it was a little awkward, but it came out really well. And now we have this big painting. Yay. Oh, it helped. It was everything. I was struggling with what angle to go with. I didn't know if I wanted it to be from a top angle. I wanted it to be straightforward. And so having my friends pose there gave me an idea of how I would structure the whole painting and how I would structure the heads and everything. And so just having them stand there for me, it was kind of scary in a way, because I couldn't see their faces. They were just these bodies just standing there with their fists up, and it just felt so powerful and so intense. And I was like, this is it. And so having them stand there with the towels over their heads and the t-shirts and the blankets, we had to use everything. It gave me not only the angles, but also the tones from the lights and the shadows and everything. And the heads here are from the photographs. The folds and everything are all from the photographs that I had taken of them, as well as the fists and everything. So without them, I wouldn't be able to paint it, or wouldn't even know what it would actually look like with the folds and everything. So yeah. To conceptualize the idea, not that very long. We came together and discussed everything in February. And then by April, we got our canvases. So April, May, until first week of June, we had been working on our art project. We've been painting and finalizing everything and making it solid. It was painful. When I paint myself, I like to talk to myself. I like to have conversations with myself about what I'm painting. So when I was painting this, I was thinking of all the people, all the losses, all the pain, the hurt that we are carrying from day to day, and how intense that is. And we don't have an outlet to speak about this. If I start crying, okay, yeah. So we don't really have an outlet for us to like explain this, to like let loose. And so painting this really put on a lot of pressure for me as well, because I felt like I was carrying everyone's pain, everyone's sorrow. Well, I was mourning for everyone, because this could happen to anyone. It's not just something that's going on in the US or the UK. It's things that are happening here in Canada as well. It's things that are happening back home in South Africa. There's still remnants of apartheid going on. There's still, injustice towards Black people everywhere. As long as you're an immigrant outside of Africa, even in Africa, there is injustice towards us. And painting this was really hard. It was really painful because I didn't know what to do with that feeling. I didn't know who to talk to about it, because I live with another family, a white family, and they're understanding, but it's not the same, because they can't feel what I feel. They can't put themselves in that situation and carry that. Whereas I haven't been a victim, but I'm more likely to be a victim than they are. And so it's a lot, but it has to be done. We have to speak about it. We have to do something about it. And I'm happy to be part of this project, putting my pain, my sorrow, and everything into this painting. So, yeah. I think it definitely did. It made me want to make it 10 times better. Like in my head, like every time I would paint, I would like, oh no, I should do this. This would, make it more intense. It'll make it more powerful. But then it's like, I don't want to cause trauma. There's already so much trauma in the world. There's so much trauma that we have to carry. And it's like, I don't want my painting to be that. I want it to be something that, when Black people look at it, they feel understood, they feel heard, they feel comfortable. I don't want it to be something that they look at and they're like, oh, here we go again. Because it's like, there's so many movies and shows and it's all about trauma. I don't want my painting to be about trauma. I want it to be about opportunity for peace, for unity. I want it to look like we can come together and we can fight for a cause. I want it to represent us finally, I wanted to represent all of us being at peace, being understood, being heard, and being okay. Because we're not okay. And until things start to change, we'll never be okay. I guess I'm kind of there. I still do try to educate some people, but I feel like if you really want to make a difference, you would take the actions and you would take the steps forward to making that difference. You would want to educate yourself. You'd want to learn more. But I know that there are instances where things are misunderstood. And I can tell when somebody is, taking the time to try to understand, but it just doesn't get through. And so I would take the time and I would be patient and try to help them understand what is going on. But in most cases, it's very easy to see that they just don't want to learn. And so that's on them. Because it's not my job as a minority to continuously educate people on things that they're actively taking part in and choosing to actively take part in. And so, yeah, that's where I stand. Well, I am from Botswana. I was born and raised there. And most of the times, once you finish high school, you start to look for better opportunities outside. And so when you actually leave home and you go outside, everything is so scary. It's like you're put into an environment where you don't know if you're next. And so just like many other Africans, you never know when you're next until you're outside of Africa, because we're majority Black people, right? And so being out here, especially in the Western world where everything is so highly developed and everything is moving fast, it's very easy for us to kind of get lost. And so I wanted to include every African nation in there, because at the end of the day, that's where we all come from. Like even 10 years down the line, whether I'm here 10 years later and I become a Canadian citizen, I still am an African. And that's where my roots are. And I want everyone, no matter how long you've been here, no matter how long you plan to be here, to remember that you will always be an African. In the beginning, it was supposed to be a wall mural. So we would paint in the downtown Abbotsford. But then things changed. And so we started to create our own individual pieces on these 5 foot by 4 foot canvases. So our mediums are all different, I believe. I was working with acrylic. I know that there's oil paintings that were done as well. And yeah. We were able to choose which mediums we work with. I love working with acrylic because it's faster and it's easier for me to work with. Most of my paintings are all in acrylic, so yeah. I guess at the end of the day, I created my painting for the Black community. And so I would love if, the Black community were able to see my painting and it would stand up in another Black-owned business because it's comfort. It's easier for them to go stand there and see the artwork or go there and see the artwork than if it were to go into, like, let's say, another barber shop in downtown Abbotsford. They're not common there. They won't go see the artwork. And it's not a place that we go to. And so, yeah, I hope so. I can't really say I accomplished what I wanted to until people actually come in and see it and they actually, talk about it, I guess. There's no way to actually measure how good an artwork is or the impact that it has made on somebody until years from now, or even just a week from now. And so I'm hoping that, down the line, people would see it still. I'm hoping that even until next year, people would want to still come in and see all of our artworks, not just mine, but everyone else's as well. And I'm hoping that, it still inspires people until then and further down the line. So yeah.